Hello and good evening, and a very warm welcome to a special program called Cricit Predicta on NewsX, powered by NewsX. In today's IPL showdown, the 40th match of the season, the spotlight shines on the clash between Delhi Capitals and Gujarat Titans at the Arun Jaitley Stadium. In their previous encounter this season, Delhi Capitals triumphed over Gujarat Titans by 6 wickets. Now led by Gill, Gujarat Titans are determined to turn the tables and secure a victory on Delhi's home turf, aiming to settle the score. Turning on to yesterday's thrilling encounter, Lucknow Super Giants delivered a remarkable performance, overpowering Chennai Super Kings in the 39th match of the season, fueled by Stoinis. Yes, our friend from Australia will love to hear this. Brilliant century. Lucknow secured their 5th win, marking their 2nd triumph over Chennai this season. Stoinis' unbeaten knock of 124 runs of 63 deliveries earned him the well-deserved Player of the Match accolade as Lucknow soared in the 4th position in the points table with 10 points. Let's shift our focus to today's match. Gujarat Titans and Delhi Capitals have engaged in the competitive clashes meetings only 4 times, with 2 wins each. The stakes are high as both teams look to assert their dominance in today's pivotal encounter. Well, joining me are 3 important guests. One, a former sports and television consultant, David Brooks, and former cricket director of Channel 4 UK, Sutherland Vishwanath, the man with the golden gloves, as we call him, the former Indian wicketkeeper. Paul Dinette, our friend from Australia, the podcaster, the journalist, and an ever-beaming, especially after what Stoinis did yesterday. Paul, does that make you a happy Aussie?
It certainly does, Sunil. And I wore the Australian shirt to celebrate. Then I realised it looks like I'm wearing a Chennai shirt. So it's actually meant to be Australia, not CSK. Marcus Stoinis, it was time for him to deliver, and it was very special to watch. What I liked most was his celebration of his century. He gave it almost no celebration, just a muted little half raise of the bat. And you can read too much into these things, but it showed how determined he was to get the win. When they got that improbable victory, then the celebration was awesome to display. All his muscles, he's very proud of his rippling muscles, much like I'm not. And it was magnificent to see him in full celebration. It was good to see a win for the Aussie coach.
What made you predict that yesterday? Was it the law of averages catching up with the Aussie players?
I think you're giving me too much credit. I think I actually said that Nicholas Puran would be the dominant player. I said I hoped that Marcus Stoinis would be, but I can't claim predicting it. The reason I tipped them to win was in a 51-49 percentile. I thought that they might win. I suppose actually, you give me some credit. Kind of how it paired out, because Chennai went within an inch of winning it.
Paul Dinette, thank you. We'll rope in David Brooks now. David, did you predict the outcome? Or were you harsh on Aussies like I am?
Well, I wasn't expecting that from Stoinis. And if you remember, I was saying the impact players would be Shivan Dubé. Well, he didn't let down 7 sixes in his innings. Could have done with him coming in a bit earlier. And then Patirana with that key spell, getting Padikal and then getting Puran. And I tell you what cost them the CSK the match, and that was poor fielding. It was very casual fielding, wasn't it? Some big misfields. And I didn't think there was enough support for the bowlers at the end in what was a very tight game. They needed to be on the money, and unfortunately, the fielding let them down. Sloppy misfields, and the 2 players that I tipped up to be on the winning side ended up being on the losing side. But I say, we said it was going to be a tight game. All credit to Stoinis. I don't think I've seen him play better than that.
Absolutely.
And didn't Justin Langer enjoy that innings and that victory?
Well, Langer wasn't the only one. Paul was, I'm sure, and his family, who watches every IPL match with great interest. Sutherland Vishwanath, what do you make of the game yesterday? In your wise words, how would you sum it up?
Well, an absorbing and exciting match. It was a tale of 2 tons, both contrasting, because Rituraj Gaikwad played a connoisseur's delight. Even in his first 50, he had no boundary, but then he galloped away and scored a brilliant ton, but only to be upstaged by Marcus Stoinis. It was a great feat by Marcus Stoinis. He remained 124 not out with 12 fours and 3 sixes. And coming to the Chennai innings, I think it was a great partnership of 104 runs with the captain Rituraj and Shivam Dubey, whom David predicted very rightly. And Shivam Dubey was explosive. And all this, powered CSK to a good score of 210 for 4 wickets. But it was a rather subdued start, and they lost their way in the middle. Perhaps another 10, 20 runs might have changed the score. But at 88 for 3, actually Marcus Stoinis was getting angry. But I'm glad he channelized his anger, kept his cool, kept his calm, kept his temperament, and they needed 113 runs of 8 overs. LSG pulled off a fabulous victory, a famous victory. They scored 49 runs, Sunil, in just 15 balls, and they won with 3 balls to spare. It was a breathtaking match. Great innings by Marcus Stoinis and Rituraj Gaikwad, and cameos from Puran and timely knock from Deepak Huda.
Well, that was a good summation of the entire match yesterday. Let's shift our focus to today's match, the second game of the IPL season in the same ground. Sadanand, what is your expectation from the pitch, considering that you've played here, you've spent time as a cricket administrator and the umpire, if you have? What is your understanding of the pitch and the game and the ground? Your views?
Well, a struggling Delhi Capitals, will seek a much more improved performance from their bowlers. And they're taking on an inconsistent Gujarat Titans. But coming to the pitch,
yes,
it will play very well. Yeah, it's placid, it's a flat track. You will see a high-scoring encounter. And
that's
I expect
sure.
The top order to fire. Yeah, coming straight to your question, it will be a good flat wicket and plenty of runs for the batters.
Come on, Paul, now it's your turn. It's the Delhi Capitals. You have David Warner and the other Aussies, including Ricky Ponting, in the dugout. What do you say of that? Do you think it'll be a good matchup between the two?
I find these two sides quite enigmatic and difficult to predict. I'm going to predict Delhi. I think just looking at the strike rates of their batting side throughout this tournament have been quite impressive. I mean, Jake Fraser-McGurk has been a revelation, and I could talk about him till the cows come home. But all of their players at the top, Tristan Stubbs, Prithvi Shaw, Abhishek Porel, they're all scoring very, very quickly. And you've got to, if you compare them to the Gujarat strike rates, there's a significant difference. So I favour the Delhi Capitals' power hitting, and both sides are packed with quality spinners. But both sides, probably the fourth and fifth bowler, have been letting them down a little bit in this tournament so far. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a big, high-scoring affair, and I'm predicting a Delhi win with a little bit of confidence. Normally, I'm not confident. I've got a little bit of confidence tonight.
David Brooks, we have Rishabh Pant, the top scorer with 254 runs in 8 innings. Very surprisingly, he comes out and he leads from the front. I mean, just imagine, he's coming from a life-threatening accident. What would you make of that? Tristan Stubbs, Prithvi Shaw and David Warner. Do you think it's a considerable lineup to stand up against Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan, Rahul Tewatia and Saha? Your views?
No, I do think it's a formidable lineup. It's interesting, the names that Paul called out there. There was one missing from his analysis of the top order. That's David Warner, of course, who hasn't got a high strike rate. He hasn't been in long enough. For disappointing 1, 8, 10 and 18 in his four knocks. So you can't rely on Warner at the moment. So it is about Pant. Yes, Fraser-McGurk has been impressive. Whether he'll go on and get a big score, I don't know, because he plays quite a risky game, doesn't he, Paul? He could get out any moment. Hits the ball really well. So I'd love to see Pant do well today. He's threatened to do that a few times. He's getting into the tournament. Obviously, they had that mauling in the last match, so they're going to have to pick themselves up from that. But now, at home, I think I'm thinking that Pant could perform today really well. Don't know about the pitch. One thing I do know, this ground at Delhi's got very short boundaries, hasn't it? Square of the
Absolutely.
wicket. So,
you've got at the back of the wicket keeper, David, at the back of the wicket keeper, you have 55 meters. Just on the square, it's little over 60. I think that makes it increasingly tougher for the bowlers. Your views now?
Yeah, it's tougher for the spinners, isn't it? I mean, you look at the Capitals bowlers, they have been a bit disappointing. Khalil's been good, and but Nort's just been very expensive, hasn't he? If he can find some form today, that would be good. I think Axar Patel, it's time for him to really have a proper performance with the bat and ball, and if he can deliver today alongside Porel, who's been
would you fancy a curve ball on you? Would you fancy a curveball?
A curveball.
Yeah. Would you fancy bowling in this Kotla Firosha wicket, considering you play the weekend cricket yourself?
I'm not sure I'd fancy those boundaries. I think if I did drop short, you might have to go and fetch the ball from outside the stadium.
Absolutely. Sadanand Vishwanath, you've got the batting of Delhi Capitals against a formidable Shubman Gill, Sai Sudarshan, Tewatia and Riddhiman Saha. Do you think it is fair to say that it's a wicket-keeper's game? Because the top four in each side are wicket-keepers. You know, I mean, you've got Rishabh Pant for Delhi Capitals, and in Gujarat Titans, you've got the fourth explosive batsman and impressive batsman is Riddhiman Saha with 91 runs, but the strike rate of 125 in 6 IPL innings. Your views?
That's a good viewpoint, Subal. Riddhiman Saha has been known to be a match winner. If I recall rightly, he actually made the Gujarat Titans winner the title, I guess. I guess he made very many runs in the final. He is an awesome striker of the ball, can get going, but sometimes tends to play away from his body. He tends to play these airy-fairy shots without getting his feet in the correct position, without having a strong base. And yes, wicketkeepers nowadays have to contribute with the bat, and it's a bonus. Their wicket-keeping skills are also necessary, but if a wicketkeeper can take his side home, nothing like it.
Lovely. David Brooks, would you agree with the way the batting of Gujarat Titans have been shaping up, considering that Delhi Capitals have Kuldeep Yadav with 10 wickets in 6 matches, Khalil Ahmed again at 10 wickets, Mukesh Kumar at 9, and Ishant Sharma, yes, lo and behold, Ishant Sharma at 6 wickets. Your views?
Well, I mean, I really appreciate Shubman Gill's batting. It's always a pleasure to watch him bat in any form of cricket. But I think they're quite reliant on him. You know, if you remember, when he fails, the Titans usually fail as well. So they're going to be relying on him to bat through today. If you look at the rest of that top order, they haven't really delivered that much. I mean, Saha not delivered. Sudarshan's the odd match performance here and there. Miller hasn't done anything for a while. In fact, they've had to rely on Tewatia and Rashid Khan down the order, haven't they? So it's not a great top order. Very reliant on Shubman Gill. And if the Capitals can get an early breakthrough, then that might give them the edge today.
Well, David Brooks, you've made a very pertinent point, but at the same time, Paul Dinett, would you be concerned if you're playing Delhi in the boisterous situation with the crowds coming on to you? And I believe that all the other stuff is sold out, in the sense the location is sold out. People are vying for passes just to get into it. Will it be overwhelming for Gujarat Titans, considering it's a small ground? Your views?
I don't think so. I think that these days that they're so used to playing in front of big crowds, and sometimes you can feed off the hostility of an away crowd. I just think when you're in front of a stadium packed to the rafters, you can't fail to elevate your performance. I think that the thing, as I said, that they're going to struggle with, the Gujarat, is just that they, as David said, you look through their batting so far this tournament, and aside from Gill, there hasn't been a lot on offer, whereas plenty of power in the Delhi side. So I think that's what they're going to be up against. And you're right, David. I completely forgot about David Warner. I think he's due. Every time he gets written off, because there's been a lot of media speculation in Australia of, well, maybe we need to have a new opening combination, Travis Head and Jake Fraser-McGurk. You write off David Warner at your peril. He could be due tonight.
Absolutely. The bowling, coming on to Gujarat Titans bowling. Sadanand Vishwanath, what do you make of the old fox called Mohit Sharma? 10 wickets in 7 innings in the IPL seasons. Rashid Khan is now slowly picking up. Umesh Yadav hasn't done bad enough with 7 wickets. And Sai Kishore with 6 wickets. Your overall expectation from the Gujarat Titans bowling?
Fantastic blend of both pace and spin. And like you rightly said, experience and youth. And yes, I think the Gujarat bowlers will have to get their lines right. They'll have to vary their pace. They'll have to vary their length, not bowl in the hitting arc of the batters. And I would like to see the Gujarat bowlers come to the party tonight. We've all been talking about the batters, But I think it's about time now that the bowlers come to the party and start winning matches for their teams, like what they did in the previous encounter. The Gujarat spinners did very well.
Well, that's an interesting point you raised. David Brooks, you want to answer on that? You want to put your point?
I mean, one of the other key players for me today is Rashid Khan. And, he looked back to something approaching his best in the last encounter. He escaped the morning that other bowlers got 4 overs for 15. He looked approaching his dangerous best, because when he does deliver with the ball, he can be a real match winner. So he's a standout bowler along with Mohit Sharma, who has, been a real standout, hasn't he, in this tournament. Umesh Yadav is beginning to get into his work, I think. He had a terrible start, didn't he, to the tournament, but he's beginning to look more like his old self today. But I think Rashid is the key obstacle for Delhi Capitals to negotiate, particularly if he bowls in tandem with Noor. They're great in tandem, but I don't know whether that will work for them today in the stadium at Delhi. With these short boundaries, it could be the power hitters, as Paul described them, the Stubbs, the Fraser McGurks. They might take a fancy to them.
Sutherland, this is a larger issue. You've seen length and breadth of the country. You've been to various stadiums in your professional capacity, of course, as a player, administrator, umpire, coach, whatever. Should it bother when you have a stadium as small as the Arun Jaitley Stadium? Are you petrified if you're a bowler, or you just leave it to your fate? It's like fait accompli. You're staring at the barrel of the gun, you might as well sing a song for yourself. What do you think is going inside the mind of a bowler?
Perplexedly, not perplexed. Sorry. So yeah, it's rather a very a strange situation to be in. And I, for one, wouldn't really matter, because it's the same stadium, the same size. Both the teams have to, bat and bowl in the same arena. So it wouldn't make much of a difference for me and my teammates. So I would just tell them, would marshal my troops and tell them, come on, boys, let's go out there and fight and play these 40 overs well. So the size of the ground actually doesn't really come into the picture, because both teams are playing and using the same venue. So that's my reading of the situation, Surat.
Well, that's an urgent thing that you've mentioned. Very interesting thing that we've also managed to get together is about what we need to do when your targets are big. What is your assessment? Sutherland Vishwanath, you played at an era where 235 was a winning score. Now 235 in a 20-over match isn't guaranteeing you a victory. What do you think the talks would be on between the players, the batters, the dugout and the staff?
Go hard in the power play. I think that's the mantra which all the teams are using, because of the impact run. We already have an additional batsman coming in at number 8. So they've been given the license to kill. SRH has been showing it. They've been showcasing their talent in blasting the bowlers apart. Travis Head leads the way, along with Abhishek and all the other batters. Nicholas Puran and KL Rahul and the other boys, Hekmar. All these great players are beginning to show us the importance of power hitting, the importance of targeting the right bowler, what Stoinis did yesterday. You've got to target the right bowler, you've got to go for those big overs, and the teams that are getting the big overs are the teams that are coming up trumps.
Well, when you look at the overall situation, what do you think will the players, David Brooks, this is for you, do you think they'll be keeping an eye on the World Cup fomenting and firming their place up for the World Cup?
I'm sure they will. I mean, the clock is ticking for David Warner, as Paul said. You've got a ready-made replacement in Jake Fraser McGurk. And I'd have thought David Warner, having had his injury, having now retired from other forms of cricket, I know it's all set up.
Okay, let's bite the bullet. Do you think he'll make it? Will he be one of the famous omissions, or will he make it? Just for argument's sake.
I think he should be omitted, but I don't think he will be, because of the special place he seems to hold in Australia's hearts, I guess. And he does have ability to stoke up the opposition. But I personally would leave him out. I think his time has passed. And I think that, the big farewell he had from the Test cricket arena, and, he hasn't shown much in this competition. I would bite the bullet and move on. I'm sure Paul will disagree with that, because I know that he's a fully paid up member of the David Warner. If you remember, Paul gave him credit for messing around with the ball in South Africa.
Absolutely.
So Paul won't say anything wrong about David Warner.
Paul, come on.
It's just the opposition who don't like.
It's your turn to call one Englishman who should be omitted and not taken to the World Cup because of his... There shouldn't be an entitlement for the English player, like he took out on David Warner. Come on.
Oh, I suppose that the obvious candidate might be Johnny Bairstow. But as far as just on David Warner, I still think that he should be in the World Cup, not because I'm a rose-coloured glasses with him. I was there at his farewell test match, and that was great. But I think that he has performed well for Australia in white ball cricket fairly recently, and I still think he's got something to offer. We'll see how he goes tonight, but I definitely would be picking Fraser McGurk in the Australian side. If you got me, put a gun to my head, I'll probably pick about 25 players in the Australian side. I don't like how the squads are limited to 15. I think they should be a little bit bigger than that. As far as English players are going, who do you reckon, David? Do you reckon that Johnny Bairstow's going to get the axe?
Again, I think it should fall, definitely. I think we've seen enough of Johnny Bairstow. We've seen so many failures from him in India, not just in the IPL, but in the Test series that preceded this, that surely it's time to give someone else a go. I think there will be some sentimentality and there will be one last throw of the dice for Bairstow. But we know when teams decide to play safe and give the guys one more go, it often doesn't work. Look at West Indies in the last time they win a World Cup, where they gave Chris Gale and Dwayne Bravo one tournament too many. And I think that's the case for Bairstow. I think we've got other players who could come in and do just as well. Harry Brook being the obvious replacement for him. Harry Brook not at this IPL. I mean, England fans will be happy to see Joss Buttler back in form, although he looks exhausted. I hope he gets a break before he gets out to the West Indies. He does look exhausted. I mean, going back to your question, Sunil, I guess the other player for whom the World Cup must be looming large is Rishabh Pant. With all the competition,
well, that's the question I'm going to ask Sadaran Vishwanath.
Eminent wicketkeeper alongside
absolutely. Sadaran Vishwanath, we're not going to ask you about the team. Just the wicketkeeper of the Indian side. Who do you think is going to be the notable absentee from the long list?
Well, I think they will not go for the veteran Dinesh Karthik. Although the grounds in West Indies and America are going to be smallish in size and the wickets will be slow, you do require experience, but still it would be a toss of the coin between KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant in my book.
Who's the number 2 keeper for India?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they just go with one.
Oh.
Just like, because the combination of the team is just 15 members. So they might just choose one wicketkeeper and they might give him that workload, and he might have to be very careful with his fitness and ensure that he keeps...
Okay, let me turn around this question. Sadaran Vishwanath, you've been one of the best wicket keepers India has seen in the modern times with the white ball. Sadaran Vishwanath, if you were to solace Ishan Kishan, Dinesh Karthik, whoever, what would you say to them after the list is out? Just how would you tell them, like an elder statesman?
Well, it depends who has been dropped, So the guys who have missed the bus, I certainly will go and console them and ask them to keep at it and to keep on trying to improve and to ensure that they keep on enjoying the cricket, keep on improving. And they also will know that the selectors have selected the best possible team. There's only one slot for the wicketkeeper. So they know that the selection committee and Rahul Dravid,
Sadaran Vishwanath, I'm going to ask you a personal question.
The keeper is going to be selected. Yeah,
Sadaran Vishwanath, let me ask you one question. You have right not to answer that. When after a great series you were dropped and you couldn't make a comeback to the Indian series, did anyone, or do you feel someone should have come and put a hand around your shoulder and said, Sada, you've done a good job, you still can make it? You want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. There's nothing like having a counselor. There's nothing like having counseling. There's nothing like having an arm around your shoulder and somebody to take away all the mental pressure, clean all the cobwebs in your mind. Nothing like having such emotional support. But yes, I did make a comeback. I went to America with the Indian team. I came back with a fresh mind. I did well against Alan Border's team when they came here to India. I came back in '87 for the Reliance World Cup. In the probables, I didn't make it in the 50, but then I came back for the ODIs against the West Indies. And I also did well against Pakistan and came back into the Test team. although once again into the reserves. So then Kiran More and Chandrakant Pandey took it away, and then I knew that I was at the receiving end. I packed up my bags and went away to Abu Dhabi when I tried to make a new career.
Well, on that emotionally poignant note, we call it a day for this Cricit Predicta. We had great fun talking to David Brooks, Paul Dinnett, who's ever so a soldier to the English, to the Aussie names. And we also have a very scathing David Brooks joining us to talk about today's match and also reflecting on what went wrong in yesterday's match and also predicting today's victorious team. Sadaran, that's all we had time for. Thank you very much for sharing your piece of jewel. And please keep watching NewsX. We'll be back after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.